Next speaker, Daphna Magildris, clinical data management, and Ivan Pesoro, senior director, also in clinical data management, both from Everest Clinical Research. They will cover the process they've implemented using different workflows levels built into DF Discover, both for remote and on-site monitoring. Yep, they have achieved some pretty remarkable outcomes. So let's hear directly from them.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear us?
Yep.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much. My name is Ivan Pesoro. As mentioned, I'm the Senior Director of Clinical Data Management at Everest. And with my colleague, Daphne Magildris, we are going to present to you risk-based monitoring and data management and their harmonious journey to database lock, which we all know is never harmonious. A little bit about us before we jump in. Everest Clinical Research has been an established CRO since 2004, and we were spawned from Pfizer's acquisition of Pharmacia in that year, 2004. There was a data group which was primarily focused on data management and statistics and programming, which when it was released in that acquisition, we started our company, Everest. With that, over the years, we have continued as a CRO and developed into a full service CRO. We have several preferred vendor partnerships with 70 or more active clients at any given time, and we work with the full gamut of companies out there, from big pharma, mid-sized biotech companies, and medical device companies. We have grown organically since our inception to 280 full-time employees, as well as several consultants across the globe. We have physical locations in Toronto, Canada, Markham specifically, Little Falls, New Jersey, and Shanghai, China. Our key success factors have been always driving for the highest of quality, ensuring we are customer focused, having a can-do spirit to ensure that we can achieve our goals, and most notably by being as flexible as possible, and always striving for continuous improvement. Over the course of our years at Everest, we have executed and completed more than 200 clinical trials utilizing either the DataFax 3.8 version all the way through to the current DF Discover 5.4. So one of those words that comes up a lot in clinical research is risk-based monitoring. It was a really hot and sexy word back in the day. And to be completely honest, I don't know, and this is in my opinion, that it has been utilized or implemented as well as it can be. The FDA believes that risk-based monitoring can improve oversight by the sponsor, which is something that is highly sought after with the regulatory agencies, and will hopefully gain efficiencies and ensure the integrity and quality of databases and data. Risk-based monitoring is supposed to support cost benefit. It is supposed to reduce risk. It's supposed to be adaptable so that as it changes over time, the plan in place can be adapted. It requires some new technology, and it is supposed to reduce the resources that are required to perform the activity. We know that it's an adaptive approach to clinical trial monitoring, and it focuses on critical data. It is supposed to focus on the errors that matter so that we can have data which is full of integrity and there are less questions being asked about it. And it also supports the investigators and their responsibility for overall data quality in a clinical trial. In Everest's opinion, we believe that in order to roll out risk-based monitoring, which would support the idea or the notion of decentralized clinical trials where monitoring can be done at arm's length or not in an on-site fashion, in a remote fashion, that it requires all the players to play a key role in that. And the communication between the various groups is completely cross-functional, which includes directives from the sponsor, the CRAs, the data management vendor, and all of the other external vendors as well. Without a collaboration between all of the groups, it does pose challenges and risks to implementing such a program in a decentralized manner. Just as a recap, traditional monitoring typically was fixed. 100% of every data point was being monitored. It was very reactive. It required that CRAs be on site and was typically paper-based based on the source. Risk-based monitoring today is an adaptive approach. It can be more proactive. It can be done on-site and off-site and heavily relies on the technology that is put forth. There was, in the implementation of risk-based monitoring, it was always the idea that having a technology that could just be a plug and play would support this type of activity. But in our opinion, it hasn't been that easy. So what we would like to present to you today is a real world example where we were able to support a clinical trial in a decentralized manner. And the real world example that we are using is a study which crossed or spanned 5 continents, included 26 countries, 950 sites. We screened 16,033 subjects while cleaning all of that data, as well as obtaining a PI signature for each of those subjects. 8,500 subjects were randomized. We collected over approximately 1 million electronic case report forms. We had to work with 6 external non-CRF vendors requiring reconciliation, and we were able to achieve database lock 2 weeks after the last subject last visit. With that, I will pass over to Daphna, who will take this part of the presentation.
Thank you, Ivan. So in order to do this, and I just wanted to clarify, the 2 weeks was 2 calendar weeks. It was actually 10 business days from last subject, last visit, which is obviously pretty impressive. So in order to do that, we had to have a strategy. We had to have some kind of a plan that we started planning way before database lock in order to clean the subject. So we decided, the easiest thing is to clean subject by, for database lock, to do it by site. The site is done, we cleaned the entire site, they're done. We couldn't do it here because we had to have some kind of waves. So instead, what we did is we cleaned the subject as they completed the study. So for example, if it was the screen fails, we front loaded all the screen fails. So any subject that was done, that was put into a wave. And we actually had 8 waves of soft lock. So we can always want to front load, do as much as you can, because we know we have a lot of surprises at the end. The average size of each of the wave was about 700, 800 subject randomized. And I'll show you in a minute another slide that you will see the structure. It was bigger than that because we had to include the screen fails as well. And this plan was what led us to success in meeting this milestone. So the next slide shows you the actual. Okay, thank you. This is the actual 8 wave for this study. This is real data. As you can see, we different sizes of the waves. The first one was, wave 1 was humongous because we were able to put all the screen fails that has less data and slightly easier to clean up front. And then at the end, when we got to waves 5, 6, 7, 8, then we didn't have any screen fails anymore because we front loaded them. Like we said, we had last subject last visit July 29th, and we locked the database on August 9th. So part of the plan, so just kind of like a little bit background. So this client we worked with for many years. We locked about 15 studies. We were very successful in always locking about 2 weeks, not more, never more than 2 weeks after last subject class visit. So of course they come to us and they say, you know, we've been working together, we're having fun, we can do it here as well. Well, you saw the size of the studies. All the 15 studies that we locked before had, you know, 200 subjects, 300 subjects. It's a totally different story, but they really didn't care. We said, you know, you've done it before, let's do it again. So part of the planning was we had a weekly meeting to track the progress. I was the database lock coordinator, and I was thinking of what's the title of this role. It's basically to make sure that all the vendors, manage all the vendors, that everybody's on the same page. So for that reason, that weekly meeting, it started as bi-weekly and later it was weekly. Every vendor, the sponsor, DM, everybody had to send a representative. It was very important that we solve problem during the study, during the meeting, and not have to wait another week, or in some risk and some things that are not clear, we'll have to sit and wait. We had to resolve things while that call. So we used a tracker that had every single and that has to be completed in order to lock the study. If it's the outstanding queries or pending queries to close, any missing pages, any of the vendors, even if they had queries on their end, SAEs, every single review that had to be done for the study was on this tracker, so we can see in front of us any risks or any issues that we had. And we would raise them during this call. The team was very dedicated to solve everything in between meetings. They were held accountable to make sure that they actually resolving all the problems. So we didn't want to have any surprises. I think that's the biggest thing that we had to make sure. Next slide, please, Ivan. Data facts for this study. Anything that I'm saying today is definitely applicable for DF Discover as well. We've had a lot of experience with data facts, very flexible, and we're able to do a lot of things in-house. Based on a monitoring plan that was risk-based monitoring, a combination of on-site and remote monitoring, we have created, you can see the 3 fields. These fields that you see, it was a field that the fields that we put at the bottom of each CRF plate, and that was the monitoring levels. The site was not able to see it, so they didn't know if the page was monitored on-site or remotely. The CRA expected to be at about 80% total SDV, which is on-site and remote based on the monitoring plan during the entire study. We found that if we don't keep that high level of SDV, it's very difficult to lock the study on time if there's a backlog of monitoring to do. The CRAs, when they log into the system, they had to log in. There was a window that came up to say, are you logging in on site or remotely? Because that would determine if you have that SDV on that form, which is on site, REM, which is remote. And anytime any data was modified on that form, that SDV would resend, and that's the RES, okay? So it will definitely kick that verification, so they would have to go back to the page. If you are, familiar with the iData Facts or DF Discover, you know that any field that was modified would be in orange, and then they're able to see what was modified and they were responsible to make sure they re-SDV the form as soon as they come back to see what was changed. We did use some tools within iData Facts, and like I said, also in DF Discover to assist us. I will go over them quickly. I think I told the team here before, if you gave us 7 hours to talk about it, we will give you all the details. But because we only have 30 minutes, I'll have to be brief, but I still wanted to go over all the tools that we used. So one of my favorite views in iDataFacts or DF Discover is the status view. The CRAs were able to enter either their site number or the specific subject numbers when they're on site or remotely. And then under the page, they would enter the page numbers that are required 100% SDV per plan. So we had some in the monitoring plan, there were some pages that will always have to be, some data points that will always have to be monitored on site. You know, if we look at SAEs, eligibility, there are different things that are important, you know, the primary endpoints that are important. And we had a list of those plate numbers, and they were able to just enter all the pages, what you can see there in a page number. And that will bring up, and when they update, that will bring up all the pages that are applicable. So in this example, you can see that we have 16 forms in data entry level 1, and this is totally customizable. We call it this, you can customize it like whatever title you want. The data entry level 1 means the pages are entered, but are not SDV'd yet. They're just entered by the site or maybe modified and rescinded. And so the CRAs know they have 16 subjects. Remember, we kind of filtered it for the ones that have to be 100% SDV. So when they're on site, they know they at least have 16 forms to monitor. They also know that they have 46 pages that are in the remote SDV level, which is nice because they already reviewed them. However, as part of the monitoring plan, this has to be 100% SDV, and they will have to monitor it as well. And then we have 20 pages that are already in level 3, which is the on-site SDV, and finally the level they're supposed to be in. In order to make the CRA's life, next slide, thank you. In order to make the CRA life a little easier, we were actually able to create task list that did what I just showed you, okay? So instead of, some CRAs are great, they know how to go in there and play around, but in order to make it easier, we can define some tasks for the different users that just serve as a shortcut for the status view that I just showed you. So in addition to always have, you know, we create a task for outstanding queries or pending queries for CRA to answer, or pending queries for the medical monitor to answer. So it's just easier for them. And you can see here, we also did it by wave or anything that will make it easier and faster. Sometimes it's so easy for DM, but it seems a little more complicated for people that are not used to the system. So in this example, you can see a task list that it's SDV for, this is for the OUS team. Any pages that need on-site SDV per the monitoring plan, they'll click on it and that will bring them to all the pages that still need to be SDV. So that will save a lot of time for them. Next slide. The next report is actually a standard report within iDataFacts and DF Discover. It's the PT missing report. We did enhance it a little bit to make sure that we have all the information we need, such as the waves and some other things, so to make it clear, the plate name, so they can easily find it. And that shows them all the pages and overdue visits. And then we are also, within the standard report, you're able to also issue queries for all the missing pages. So the site sees a query that says this page is missing, this visit is expected to already be in. As data managers, we all know until the pages are in, we can't review them. So that was very, very critical to make sure we don't have any missing pages. The Sdv Tracking report was programmed internally, my favorite report. This is super, super helpful and includes information for any pages that one. Remember that level 1 that I showed you previously rescinded. So this report was sent to the team, and anytime they see it, they can filter it by their site, but you'll need to be SDV'd. And that was very, very helpful for them as well. The next tracker we use is the Clean Patient Tracker that we created. That's also programmed internally. And this is a great way to see high level what's still pending. So each of the subjects, and Ivan, if you can put it the next slide so I can show the example. So for each of the subject is listed on this tracker. So yes, we had 16,000 subjects listed on this tracker. And the different reports from IDSD, if it's for missing data or incomplete pages, we did program it to spit out everything that we need here. And we obviously program it so we can customize it with whatever other information you want to have. And this one would show you if we still have missing pages for each of the subjects, if we have subjects that are saved as incomplete and they need to be final, open queries, pending queries. And at the end of to see if the subject is still going through ongoing or it's also is already a clean subject. Once it's clean subject, it already also told us if all the forms are level, which level 4 for us would be the freezing, the soft lock level. So you can see example of a subject, 5022, it's a clean subject. It's already soft locked. We have a PI signature. This subject is good to go for lock. When we had other subject, maybe we're still doing ongoing cleaning because they have missing data, or we have a subject here that is already, the PI already signed, but we didn't freeze the subject yet. And we can, this is great for DM as well. So it's definitely by the sponsor and the CRO, but it's great for DM as well because we're able to filter in and say, okay, who are my clean subjects that are not in level 4 yet? And then we can just freeze them all at once.
Can I get you to turn off your video?
Next
because
slide.
I think your bandwidth is pausing you.
Oh, sorry, I know.
No.
Hold on a second. Okay. I pay enough that it's not, shouldn't be this way, but okay. I think that's my last slide, Ivan.
So ultimately, it was a successful study, and we were able to achieve that last patient, last visit and database lock within 2 days. We, over the course of the 5-year study, collected 32 billion raw data points. We did complete the study with 16,033 subjects. We captured an exact number of 899,290 electronic case report forms. Over the course of the study, we did apply 305,000 queries to the system, both auto and manual. This did span 5 continents, leaning towards the whole theme of this decentralized clinical trial. And we were able to perform several of our activities in a way that didn't require monitors or study staff to be on site with patients. So that was a huge contributor to being able to successfully lock this database in that 10 business days from last patient, last visit. Just really high level again. In order to make this happen, there has to be a really big collaboration between the sponsors, the sites, the CRO, and the various vendors in order to ensure that you can manage and pull this sort of thing off. And given that we are where we are with this whole COVID-19 pandemic, the FDA recognizes that monitors may not be able to access trial sites as frequently as they need to. And we feel that implementing something along these lines supports that and the idea of that DCT. Thank you very much. We appreciate your time today. Does anybody have any questions for Daphna specifically?
Thank you, Ivan. Thank you, Daphna. Quite impressive. I was checking the chat, and we have so far 2 questions. One from Daryl. He's wondering if the CRAs or monitors are a third party or are part of your organization. I ask because if you're CRA, you can train them well and gain acceptance. I see you there, Darryl. So if you want to add anything else, feel free.
So we have actually, this study was a third party. However, we're doing the same thing with even if CROs are from Everest. I wrote in the chat, I think that was the secret weapon, is to make sure DM and CRAs are not the enemies, right? And I make that clear right away. As soon as I start working with a team on database lock, which I love doing, that's part of the thing. I come from ClinOps, so it's very, very important that we work together. If we don't work together, it's very, very hard. So we may invest more time in training up front, but it pays off later during data cleaning.
Thank you for that question.
Another question from Nita. What did you use to program your report sample patient tracker?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? I missed the.
Yeah. What did you use to program your reports example in the patient tracker?
Yes, thank you. We have a programming team here, and given that the raw data extracts come from SAS, or we use SAS, everything was programmed on the back end and then provided to data management in the form of Excel. So we have the ability to attach the various reports to the reports feature in DF Discover. So it gave the ability for the data managers to run their own specific reports as needed. And these would be run in real time with the data that we had in the clinical database.
Great. Thank you, Ivan. We have one more question. How many DM members and monitors were assigned to the study?
Good question.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember how many CRAs. So it was, like you said, it was 26 countries. Wow, I don't remember. That's pretty sad. How many
In terms of the data management team that we had, Daphne was highly involved in that. We had 3 lead data managers. We navigated 3 maternity leaves of lead data managers, which made for some challenges over the course of time as you're bringing teammates in and out. And in support of those leads, we had about an additional 7 full-time resources performing the various data reviews and query addition and closing and so on.
Yeah, as you can imagine, each reconciliation probably took, if I had to do ECG reconciliation, each reconciliation took a few days. I'm trying to think. I know that the US team had about 100 CRAs, and they had the most sites.